Hey guys, tonight we plunge into the brutal life of a samurai in feudal Japan, where your every dawn is a test of survival. Picture this, you're crouched in a misty dojo, the air sharp with pine and sweat, your calloused hands gripping a wooden bokken. The horizon glows faintly, but there's no warmth in it, just the promise of another grueling day. You're not just training, you're forging yourself into a weapon, because in this world, hesitation means death. Spoiler, you probably won't survive this life unscathed, if at all. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your location and local time, I'm curious where you're listening from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You wake before the sun, the straw mat beneath you prickling your skin through your thin kimono. The air is cold, biting at your exposed arms as you rise in the dimness of your lord's estate. Your muscles ache from yesterday's drills, but there's no time to linger, your sensei's voice, sharp as a katana's edge, already echoes from the courtyard. You're a samurai, or at least you're trying to be, and today, like every day, is about proving you're worthy of that title. The year is roughly 1500, deep in Japan's Sengo period, a time of endless war where rival warlords carve up the land like a fresh kill. You're not just a warrior, you're a tool of your daimyo's ambition, and your training is the crucible that shapes you. You stumble outside, the gravel crunching under your straw sandals. The dojo is alive with motion. Other trainees, some younger than you, swing weighted staffs, their breaths puffing in the chilly air. Your sensei, a grizzled veteran with scars like a map of past battles, barks orders. Strike harder, he snaps, his eyes narrowing as you fumble a swing. You're learning kenjutsu, the art of the sword, but it's not elegant like in movies. It's brutal, repetitive, and unforgiving. One misstep, and you're sprawled in the dirt, your peers snickering. Fun fact, samurai training often started at age 5, with kids as young as you, well, maybe not you but close, wielding real blades by 10. No pressure, right? Your day begins with zanshin, a state of total awareness. You're taught to sense danger in every shadow, every rustle of leaves. Historians still argue whether zanshin was more about instinct or discipline, but either way, you're expected to embody it. You swing your bokken again, mimicking the cuts that could one day sever a man's arm. Your sensei circles like a hawk, correcting your stance with a sharp rap of his staff across your knuckles. You wince but don't cry out, showing weakness is worse than a broken bone. The pain is your teacher, too. Beyond the dojo, the estate hums with purpose. Servants scurry, polishing armor and sharpening blades, while your lord's banners flap in the wind, crimson and black against the gray sky. You're not just training your body, you're molding your mind to accept the samurai code, though you won't hear the word bushido yet, that term comes later. For now, it's about loyalty, honor, and survival. You kneel during breaks, sipping bitter green tea, your stomach growling because breakfast is a distant dream. A quirky tidbit, some samurai chewed on dried squid to stave off hunger during long training sessions. Bet you're glad you've got that late-night snack nearby. The morning stretches into noon, and you're sent to run laps around the estate's outer walls. Your legs burn, your lungs scream, but you keep going. Why? Because quitting means disgrace, and disgrace means you're no better than a peasant. You pass a group of ashigaru, the foot soldiers who serve your lord. They're tough, but they're not samurai, your status sets you apart, though it's a heavy crown. You're expected to be flawless, a living blade, and the weight of that expectation presses harder than your armor ever will. As you run, you notice the cherry blossoms falling, their pink petals scattering like fleeting promises. It's beautiful, but it reminds you of life's impermanence, a lesson your sensei drills into you daily. You're not just training to fight, you're training to face death without flinching. A mainstream fact to ground us, during the Sengo period, samurai made up roughly 5 to 10% of Japan's population, a small elite class wielding immense power. But power comes at a cost. You're not free to dream of a quiet life, your daimyo owns your future, your blade, your very soul. By afternoon, you're sparring, your bokken clashing against another trainee's. Sweat stings your eyes, and your arms tremble, but you can't stop. Your opponent, a wiry kid with a smirk, lands a blow on your shoulder. It's just wood, but it hurts like hell. You grit your teeth and counter, aiming for his ribs. This isn't play, it's preparation for the real thing, where blades don't bruise but kill. You imagine facing an enemy samurai, his katana flashing under a blood-red sun. Will you be ready? Probably not, but you've got no choice. As evening falls, you're finally allowed to rest, collapsing onto a wooden bench. Your hands are blistered, your body bruised, but there's a strange pride in the pain. You're becoming something more than human, a samurai, bound by duty and forged in discipline. The stars emerge, faint pinpricks above the estate's tiled roofs. You wonder if you'll ever see them as anything but a backdrop to your endless training. For now, you close your eyes, the hum of cicadas lulling you into a brief, uneasy sleep. But don't get too cozy. Tomorrow's another dawn, another chance to prove you're worthy, or to fail spectacularly. You're not just learning to fight, you're learning to live a life where every moment is a test. And trust me, it only gets harder from here. So, as you drift off, imagine those cherry blossoms falling, each petal a reminder that time is short, and your path is brutal. You kneel on a tatami mat, the woven straw cool against your shins, as the weight of your oath settles over you like a heavy fog. It's early morning, the air thick with the scent of cedar and incense, and you're in your daimyo's hall, its polished beams gleaming under flickering torchlight. You're not just a warrior now, you're binding your soul to a code that will define every breath you take. This is the way of the samurai, though the term bushido won't be coined for centuries. For you, it's simply the path, unyielding, unforgiving, and razor-sharp. Remember that grueling dojo training? This is where it leads, a vow to serve, to obey, to die if needed, all for a lord who might not even know your name. The hall is quiet, save for the rustle of silk as your daimyo, a stern figure in lacquered armor, sits elevated on a dais. His eyes bore into you, assessing your worth. You're one of many retainers, but today, you're swearing loyalty, a ritual that feels like signing your life away with invisible ink. Your palms sweat as you press them to the floor, bowing so low your forehead nearly touches the ground. The words you speak are formal, heavy with centuries of tradition. You pledge your blade, your honor, your everything. A mainstream fact anchors this moment. Samurai loyalty was the backbone of feudal Japan, with retainers often serving the same family for generations, their lives tied to their lord's ambitions. But let's be real, swearing eternal loyalty sounds noble until you realize it's a one-way ticket to a life of servitude. You're not signing up for glory, you're signing up for sacrifice. The code demands absolute devotion, but it's not all stoic heroism. There's a quirky tidbit to lighten the mood. Some samurai carried small, intricately carved netsuki charms, believing they'd bring luck or protection. You've got one tucked into your obi, a tiny wooden fox, its polished surface smooth against your fingers. You're not superstitious, but you'll take any edge you can get. Your oath isn't just words, it's a contract etched into your very being. You're expected to uphold virtues like courage, honor, and self-control, but the reality is messier. Historians still argue whether this early samurai code was a genuine moral framework or just a tool to keep warriors like you in line. Either way, you feel its weight. Disobey, and you're not just shamed, you're erased, your family disgraced, your name forgotten. You glance at the other samurai kneeling beside you, their faces unreadable. Are they as nervous as you? Probably, but no one's dumb enough to show it. As you rise, your daimyo's vassal hands you a sake cup, its lacquer glinting like dark water. You sip, the bitter liquid burning your throat, sealing the bond. The ceremony's over, but the real work begins. You're now a living extension of your lord's will, expected to act without question. It's a heady feeling, like you're part of something bigger, but there's a catch, you're also a pawn in a game of power you barely understand. Your lord's enemies are now yours, and they're out there, plotting in castles just like this one. You step outside into the courtyard, the morning sun harsh after the dim hall. Your new status as a sworn samurai means new responsibilities. You're assigned to patrol the estate's perimeter, a task that sounds simple but isn't. The gravel crunches under your sandals as you walk, your hand resting on the hilt of your wakizashi, the shorter sword you're allowed to carry for now. The katana, the true mark of a samurai, is still a privilege you're working toward. You pass a cherry tree, its blossoms long gone, replaced by green buds. It's a reminder of how fleeting this moment of pride is. Your life, like those petals, could scatter at any moment. The estate buzzes with activity. Servants haul rice bales, their backs bent under the weight, while ashigaru drill nearby, their spears glinting. You're above them in rank, but the code demands you treat them with a certain respect, not out of kindness, but because disunity weakens the clan. You nod to a grizzled ashigaru captain, his face weathered like old leather. He grunts in return, probably thinking you're just another green samurai who'll die in his first skirmish. Joke's on him, you're determined to prove him wrong, even if your knees are still shaking from the oath. Your patrol takes you past the stables, where horses snort and stamp, their breath steaming in the cool air. You're not a cavalry samurai yet, that's for the elite, the ones who've earned their lord's trust. For now, you're on foot, your eyes scanning the horizon for threats. The Sengo period is a snake pit of betrayal, rival clans, turncoat allies, even spies within your own ranks. Your code demands vigilance, but it's exhausting. You rub your fox Netsuki for luck, half smiling at how silly it feels. Bet you're wishing you had a lucky charm right now, huh? By midday, you're summoned to a meeting with your lord's advisors. The hall is stuffier now, the air thick with tension. You kneel again, listening as they discuss troop movements and alliances. You're not here to speak, your job is to absorb, to understand the chessboard you're a piece on. The advisors mention a rival daimyo, his forces massing just beyond the mountains. Your stomach twists. War is coming, and your oath means you'll be in the thick of it. You're not sure if you're ready, but the code doesn't care about your feelings. As evening falls, you're finally allowed a moment to yourself. You sit by a small pond, its surface rippling under the breeze. The code you swore to is already shaping you, carving away doubts and fears. But it's not all discipline and duty. You overhear two older samurai joking about a lord who got drunk and fell into a rice paddy, proof even the mighty can look ridiculous. You stifle a laugh, but it's a reminder that samurai are human, too, despite the myth you're expected to embody. Your day ends with a simple meal, rice, pickled radish, and a sliver of dried fish. You eat slowly, savoring the quiet. The code is your guide, but it's also your cage. You're bound to your lord, your clan, your honor, and there's no escape. As you lie on your mat, the night air cool through the shoji screens, you wonder what battles lie ahead. The fox Netsuki rests by your side, a small comfort in a world that demands everything from you. Sleep comes slowly, the weight of your oath lingering like a shadow. You grip the wooden bokken, its weight familiar but heavier today, as sweat beads on your forehead despite the dawn's chill. The dojo's packed earth floor is hard under your bare feet, and the air smells of dust and polished steel. You're not just practicing anymore, you're honing the art of the katana, the soul of a samurai, and every swing is a step closer to life or death. Remember that oath you swore, binding you to your daimyo? This is where it sharpens into something lethal. You're training to become a blade yourself, one that cuts through doubt, fear, and flesh with equal precision. The Sengo period doesn't mess around, and neither can you. You face your sparring partner, a lean samurai named Taro, whose smirk says is ready to knock you into next week. Your sensei, his face a map of old scars, watches from the sidelines, his bamboo shinai tapping impatiently. Focus, he barks, and you snap your stance tighter, knees bent, eyes locked on Taro's. The goal is simple, land a clean strike before he does. But simple doesn't mean easy. Taro lunges, his bokken whistling toward your ribs. You parry, the impact jarring your arms, and counter with a downward cut. He dodges, grinning like he's enjoying this way too much. You're not sure if you want to wipe that grin off or just survive the round. Kenjutsu, the art of the sword, is the heart of your training. A mainstream fact to ground us: by the 16th century, the katana had become the samurai's signature weapon, its curved blade designed for swift, decisive cuts. Forged by master smiths, a good katana could slice through armor, or a man, with terrifying ease. You're not wielding one yet, that honor comes later, when you've proven yourself. For now, the bokken is your teacher, its blunt edge a reminder that mistakes bruise before they kill. You swing again, aiming for Taro's shoulder, but he blocks, and your sensei's shinai cracks across your back. Too slow, he growls. You wince, but pain's just part of the deal. The dojo is a world of its own, a place where time blurs into sweat and repetition. You practice katas, choreograph sequences that mimic real combat. Each move has a name: keisagiri, the diagonal cut, tsuki, the thrust, and you drill them until your muscles scream. Historians still argue whether these katas were more about discipline or practical skill, but you don't care about debates. You just want to avoid getting smacked again. Your arms tremble as you repeat a high-low strike pattern, the bokken feeling like a lead weight. Taro's not helping, he keeps throwing feints, forcing you to react faster. You mutter under your breath, "This guy's enjoying my misery way too much." It's a small joke to keep your spirits up, because you're not sure you'll survive this session, let alone a real fight. Beyond the dojo, the estate hums with morning activity. You catch glimpses through the open shoji screens: servants hauling water, ashigaru polishing spears, a stray cat darting across the courtyard. You're not part of their world anymore, your path is narrower, sharper. A quirky tidbit to lighten the mood: some samurai believed their swords held spirits, and they'd whisper to them before practice, asking for strength. You're not there yet, but you eye your bokken, half wondering if it's judging your sloppy form. Bet you're glad your gym equipment doesn't have an attitude, right? Midday brings a shift to archery, another skill you're expected to master. You stand on a grassy field, a straw target 50 paces away, its red center mocking you. The Yumi, a tall asymmetrical bow, feels awkward in your hands, its string taut as your nerves. You knock an arrow, draw, and release, only to watch it sail wide, thwacking into the dirt. Taro snickers, his own arrow hitting the target's edge. Nice aim, he teases. You roll your eyes but try again, adjusting your stance. Archery's not just about hitting the mark, it's about focus, breathing, becoming one with the bow. You're starting to think this whole samurai thing is just a fancy way to make you suffer. By afternoon, you're back to sword work, this time with a twist, paired drills. You and Taro face off with padded armor, practicing cuts and counters. The padding's supposed to soften the blows, but Taro's not holding back. His bokken clips your elbow, sending a jolt of pain up your arm. You grit your teeth and strike back, landing a solid hit on his chest. He grunts, and for once, that smirk falters. Small victories, right? Your sensei nods, a rare sign of approval, but adds, you're still too tense. A stiff blade breaks. You're not sure if he means the sword or you, but you loosen your grip and try again. As evening creeps in, you're sent to the army to observe blade maintenance. An old swordsmith, his hands weathered as oak, shows you how to polish a katana. The blade gleams like liquid moonlight, its edge so sharp you're afraid to breathe near it. You're not allowed to touch it yet, but you watch, mesmerized, as he wipes it with rice paper and oil. This is the soul of a samurai, he says, and you feel its pull. You're starting to understand why those quirky sword whisperers existed. There's something alive in that steel. The day ends with a quiet moment by the dojo's edge, where you sit cross-legged, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of crimson and gold. Your body aches, your hands are blistered, but there's a fire in you now. You're not just swinging a stick anymore, you're carving a path to mastery. The katana is more than a weapon, it's a promise, a burden, a destiny. You think back to that fox netsuki from your oath, still tucked in your obi. Maybe it's working, because you're still here, still standing. But don't get cocky. Tomorrow's another round of bruises, and Taro's probably plotting to make you eat dirt again. You chuckle to yourself, imagining him tripping over his own ego. The stars are out now, and you lie back, the grass cool against your neck. The katana's path is brutal, but it's yours. You close your eyes, the hum of cicadas blending with your slowing breath, and wonder if you'll dream of steel or just collapse into oblivion. You trudge across the courtyard, the weight of your new armor pressing down like a second skin, its lacquered plates clacking softly with each step. The morning air is crisp, laced with the scent of damp wood and charcoal from the estate's kitchens, but there's no time to savor it. You're a samurai now, sworn and trained, and today you're donning the gear that marks you as one. This isn't just armor, it's a statement, a shield, and a burden all at once. Remember that bokken you swung until your arms screamed? This is where it leads, to a life where every piece of equipment is both protection and a reminder of what's at stake. You're not just wearing armor, you're carrying your lord's expectations, and they're heavier than any steel. The armor, a wiry man with hands like knotted rope, adjusts the straps of your yoroi, the traditional samurai armor. It's a masterpiece of craftsmanship, lacquered bamboo and iron plates tied with silk cords, dyed in your clan's colors, deep indigo with crimson accents. The chest plate, or D, hugs your torso, while the kusazuri skirts dangle to protect your thighs. It's heavy, maybe 30 pounds, and you feel like a turtle strapped into a fortress. A mainstream fact to anchor us, yoroi armor, used widely in the Sengo period, was designed for mounted archers, offering mobility and protection but weighing samurai down in close combat. You're not on horseback yet, so you're just trying not to tip over. You shift, testing the armor's fit, and nearly trip when the sword, those big shoulder guards, catch on a wooden post. The armorer chuckles, muttering something about newbies. You shoot him a look but bite your tongue, pride's a luxury you can't afford. The kabuto helmet comes next, its iron dome cool against your scalp, with a neck guard that makes turning your head a chore. The mempo, a snarling iron mask, covers your face, its grim expression meant to intimidate. You catch your reflection in a nearby water barrel and almost laugh. You look like a demon from a no play. Bet you're glad your Zoom calls don't require this kind of getup, huh? The armor's not just for show. It's built to stop arrows, deflect blades, and keep you alive in the chaos of battle. But it's also a sauna. Sweat trickles down your back as you practice moving, the cords creaking with each step. You're supposed to be graceful, a living weapon, but right now you feel like a kid waddling in oversized clothes. Your sensei, ever the ray of sunshine, barks at you to stop lumbering. You're a samurai, not a buffalo, he snaps. You grit your teeth and adjust, trying to find your balance. The armor's weight is a constant reminder, one wrong move, and you're dead. Historians still argue whether samurai armor prioritized function or status. The elaborate designs, some with gold inlays or clan crests, scream prestige, but they also made you a target. You're not sure which is worse, the enemy aiming for your shiny plates or the fact that you can barely bend over to tie your sandal. A quirky tidbit to lighten the mood: some samurai tuck dried persimmons into their armor as a quick snack during long marches. You've got a small pouch of them strapped to your belt, their sweet tang a rare comfort. You pop one in your mouth, chewing slowly, and wonder if it'll be your last taste of peace today. You're sent to the training yard to test the armor in action. The other samurai, already suited up, move with an ease you envy. Taro, your sparring rival, struts by, his armor gleaming like he polished it with his ego. Nice turtle shell, he teases, tapping your sword. You roll your eyes and draw your bokken, ready to prove you're more than a clanking statue. The drill is simple: spar while armored, mimicking battlefield conditions. You face Taro, his mempo's grin as infuriating as his real one. He lunges, and you block, but the armor slows you. His bokken clips your arm, sending a dull ache through the padding. You counter, aiming for his chest, and land a solid hit. He stumbles, and you smirk behind your mask, small victories. The day wears on, and you're tasked with mounting a horse while armored. The beast, a sturdy brown mare, snorts as you approach, probably sensing your inexperience. Climbing into the saddle is a comedy of errors. Your kusazuri snags, your sword flops, and you nearly fall backward. The stable hand, a kid barely older than you, stifles a laugh. "Keep practicing," he says, like it's that easy. You finally settle, the horse's warmth grounding you. Riding in armor feels like balancing a boulder on a tightrope, but you manage a slow trot, the clatter of plates drowning out the birdsong. By afternoon, you're sweating buckets, the armor's weight dragging at your shoulders. You're sent to guard the estate's gate, a test of endurance. Standing still sounds easy, but try it when you're encased in iron and silk, the sun baking you like a dumpling. You shift your weight, the persimmons long gone, and scan the horizon for threats. The countryside is deceptively calm, rolling hills, rice paddies, a distant temple bell. But you know better. Bandits, rival clans, even rogue samurai could strike. Your hand rests on your wakizashi, the short sword you're allowed to carry. It's no katana, but it's yours, and it feels like an extension of your will. As evening falls, you're relieved from duty and collapse onto a wooden bench, the armor creaking as you sit. Removing it is a ritual in itself, untying cords, lifting plates, feeling your body lighten with each piece. Your kimono is soaked, your muscles screaming, but there's a strange pride in it. You're not just a man anymore, you're a samurai, marked by the gear you wear. A passing servant offers you a cup of water, and you drink deeply, the coolness a small mercy. You overhear two older samurai joking about a lord who got stuck in his armor during a rainstorm. Apparently, he looked like a soggy scarecrow. You chuckle, the tension easing for a moment. Night settles over the estate, the air cool and heavy with the scent of pine. You lie on your mat, the armor stored nearby, its silhouette looming in the moonlight. It's more than protection, it's a promise of the battles to come, a reminder that your life isn't your own. You think back to that fox netsuki, still tucked in your obi, and wonder if it's keeping you safe or just mocking your struggles. Sleep tugs at you, the hum of crickets blending with your slowing breath. Tomorrow, you'll don the armor again, and it'll feel a little less foreign. But for now, you drift, the weight of steel fading into dreams of open fields and fleeting peace. You stride through the castle gates, the weight of your armor now familiar, its clinking plates a rhythm to your steps. The air hums with tension, thick with the scent of oiled steel and the distant smoke of campfires. You're not just a samurai anymore, you're a sworn blade of your daimyo, a warlord whose ambition casts a shadow longer than the castle walls. Your life revolves around him, his orders, his whims. Remember that katana you're still earning? This is why, to serve a man who holds your fate in his calloused hands. In the Sengo period, loyalty isn't just a virtue, it's a chain, and you're about to feel its pull. The castle courtyard is a hive of activity. Servants scurry with bundles of rice, ashigaru sharpen spears, and messengers dart between buildings, their faces taut with urgency. You're summoned to the main hall, a towering structure with dark beams and sliding shoji screens. Inside, the air is heavy with incense, but it doesn't mask the undercurrent of fear. Your daimyo, Lord Takeda, sits on a raised dais, his silk robes pristine, his eyes cold as winter. He's a man who could order a village burned or a rival spared with the same calm nod. You kneel, your armor creaking, and keep your gaze low. A mainstream fact to ground us: daimyo like Takeda were feudal lords who controlled vast territories, commanding armies of samurai to enforce their rule during Japan's chaotic 16th century. You're not here to speak, only to listen. Takeda's advisors, grizzled men with voices like gravel, discuss a rival clan encroaching on the northern border. Your role is clear: you're a tool of his will, a blade to be wielded against his enemies. But serving a daimyo isn't just about fighting, it's about navigating a world where every word, every glance, could be a trap. You notice the advisor to Takeda's left, a thin man with a fox-like smile, watching you too closely. Is he sizing you up or marking you as a threat? You're not paranoid, but you're learning fast. Trust is a luxury you can't afford. As you leave the hall, you're assigned to join a scouting party. You mount a horse, its flanks warm under your thighs, and ride out with a dozen other samurai. The countryside unfolds, rice paddies glinting like mirrors, hills cloaked in mist, but it's no postcard. Bandits lurk in these woods, and rival spies could be anywhere. Your hand rests on your wakizashi, the short sword still your only blade. A quirky tidbit to ease the tension: some daimyo gifted their samurai with folding fans inscribed with battle plans, a stylish way to stay strategic. You've got one tucked in your obi, a gift from Takeda's steward, though you're pretty sure it's just decorative. Bet you're wishing for a GPS instead, right? The scout takes you through a narrow valley, the air sharp with pine and the distant howl of a wolf. Your leader, a veteran named Kenso, rides ahead, his armor dented from battles you can only imagine. He signals for silence, and you scan the trees, your heart thudding against your chest plate. Serving a daimyo means constant vigilance. Every shadow could hide an assassin, every rustle a trap. Historians still argue whether daimyo were brilliant strategists or just ruthless opportunists, but to you, it doesn't matter. Takeda's word is law, and you're bound to it, whether he's a genius or a tyrant. You return to the castle by dusk, your legs aching from the ride. The scouting was uneventful, but the tension lingers. You're summoned to Takeda's private chambers, a rare honor that makes your stomach twist. The room is dim, lit by oil lamps, their light dancing on lacquered screens painted with cranes. Takeda sits cross-legged, sipping sake, his katana resting beside him like a sleeping snake. He asks about the scout, his voice low but sharp. You report clearly: enemy track spotted, no direct threat yet, but you feel his gaze dissecting you. One wrong word, and you're done. You bow and exit, your back damp with sweat. Night falls, and you're assigned to guard the castle's outer wall. The air is cool, the stars sharp above the tiled roofs. You pace, your armor's weight a dull ache, and think about Takeda. Serving him gives you purpose, but it's a leash, too. You overhear two guards joking about a daimyo who once challenged his own samurai to a drinking contest. Spoiler, he lost and fell into a koi pond. You smirk, the image cutting through your tension. But the moment passes, and you're back to scanning the darkness, your hand on your sword. The next day, you're pulled into a war council. The hall is packed with samurai, their armor gleaming like a forest of steel. Takeda stands, his presence silencing the room. He outlines a plan to ambush the rival clan, and you're assigned to the vanguard, a dangerous honor. Your heart races, but you nod, hiding your fear. The daimyo's power is absolute, but it's built on your blood and sweat. You think of that fox Netsuki, still in your obi, and wonder if it's mocking your loyalty. Maybe it's just there to remind you to stay sharp. Days blur into preparations, sharpening blades, checking armor, drilling formations. You train alongside Taro, your old sparring partner, who's now a grudging ally. He nudges you during a break, offering a rice ball. "Don't die out there," he says, half joking. You snort, but you're grateful for the gesture. The camaraderie is fleeting, though. Serving a daimyo means no true friends, only comrades bound by duty. You eat quickly, the rice sticking in your throat, and return to drills, the weight of Takeda's orders pressing harder than your armor. As the battle looms, you're sent to deliver a message to a nearby ally. The ride is long, the road muddy from recent rains. You pass villages, their peasants bowing low, their eyes wary. They fear you, but they also depend on your lord's protection. It's a strange power, one you're not sure you like. The allies' castle is smaller, its walls weathered, and you deliver the message, a call for reinforcements, with a bow. The lord there eyes you like a hawk sizing up prey, and you're glad to leave. Back at Takeda's castle, the air is electric with anticipation. You lie on your mat at night, the hum of cicadas blending with distant war drums. Serving a daimyo is a life of contradictions, honor and fear, power and servitude. You trace the edge of your fan, its painted surface worn from your touch. Tomorrow, you'll march, your loyalty tested in blood. For now, you close your eyes, the weight of duty pulling you into a restless sleep, where dreams of steel and shadow wait. You stand on a muddy hill, the dawn sky bleeding red as war drums throb in the distance, their rhythm pulsing through your armor like a second heartbeat. The air reeks of wet earth and sweat, and your katana, finally yours after months of proving yourself, hangs heavy at your side. You're no longer just training or swearing oaths, you're in the thick of it, charging into the chaos of a Sengo battlefield. Remember that daimyo you serve, Lord Takeda? His ambition has dragged you here, to a clash of clans where survival isn't guaranteed and glory is a fleeting dream. Your armor clinks as you shift, the weight familiar but no less punishing, and you wonder if that fox netsuki in your obi will do you any good when steel meets flesh. The battlefield stretches before you, a churned mess of trampled grass and scattered banners. Takeda's forces, a mix of samurai like you and Ashigaru spearmen, form ranks under crimson flags. Across the valley, the enemy, rival samurai under a daimyo whose name you barely know, bristle with spears and bows, their armor glinting like a swarm of beetles. You're in the vanguard, a position that's both an honor and a death sentence. A mainstream fact to ground us, battles in the Sengo period, like the famous Battle of Nagashino in 1575, saw samurai combining traditional swordplay with early firearms, turning warfare into a brutal mix of old and new. You don't have a matchlock gun, those are for the Ashigaru, but your katana is ready, its edge honed to split bone. Your commander, Kenso, the veteran from your scouting days, barks orders. Hold the line, he shouts, his voice cutting through the din. You grip your katana, your palms sweaty under leather gloves, and try to steady your breathing. The enemy charges, their war cries shrill, and arrows zip overhead like angry hornets. You duck, your mempo mask muffling your curse as an arrow grazes your shoulder plate. Taro, beside you, mutters, "Nice day for a stroll, heh?" You snort, grateful for his sarcasm, it's the only thing keeping you from bolting. The clash comes fast, a wave of enemy Ashigaru slams into your line, their spears thrusting wildly. You swing your katana, the blade singing as it cuts through a spear shaft, then bites into flesh. The man falls, but there's no time to think, another takes his place. Combat is chaos, nothing like the dojo. Your training kicks in, but it's instinct now, not kata's. You parry a thrust, sidestep a club, and strike, your katana finding a gap in an enemy's armor. Blood sprays, warm and coppery, and you force yourself to focus. Historians still argue whether samurai were fearless warriors or just men driven by duty and fear of shame. Right now, you're both, heart pounding, but refusing to break. You glance at Taro, who's fending off two foes, his blade a blur. He's good, better than you, but you're not about to let him show you up. You charge an enemy samurai, his mempo snarling like a demon's. Your blades clash, sparks flying, and you feel the jolt up your arms. He's strong, but you're faster, slipping under his guard to land a blow to his side. He staggers, and you finish it, your stomach twisting as he falls. The battle rages for hours, or maybe minutes, time blurs in the haze of adrenaline. You're coated in mud and worse, your armor dented, your katana slick with blood. A quirky tidbit to cut the tension. Some samurai tied bells to their armor to signal their presence, a kind of "here I am, come get me" swagger. You didn't opt for bells, too noisy, but you wish you had something to drown out the screams. Your side's holding, but barely. Takeda's banners still fly, but the field is littered with bodies, friend and foe alike. You spot Kenso, his armor splashed red, rallying the Ashigaru. He nods at you, a rare acknowledgement, and you feel a flicker of pride before an arrow whizzes past your ear, snapping you back to reality. As the sun climbs, the enemy falters, their line breaking under a cavalry charge from Takeda's elite. You're not on horseback, still not trusted for that, but you join the push, cutting through retreating foes. It's not glorious, it's grim, mechanical work. Your arms ache, your lungs burn, but you keep moving. A stray thought hits you, bet your couch is looking pretty good right now, huh? You almost laugh, but a spearman lunges, and you're back in the fight, your katana deflecting his thrust. You don't kill him, he flees, and you let him go. Mercy's rare on a battlefield, but you're too tired to chase. By midday, the enemy retreats, their banners vanishing into the hills. Takeda's forces cheer, but you're too exhausted to join in. You slump against a tree, your armor creaking, and wipe your blade clean with a rag. The persimmons from your armor days are long gone, but you'd kill for one now. Taro plops down beside you, his mempo off, his face streaked with dirt. Not bad for a turtle, he says, grinning. You roll your eyes but bump his shoulder, a silent thanks for having your back. The camaraderie feels real, but you know it's fleeting. War doesn't leave room for friends. You're ordered to help secure the field, checking for survivors and collecting weapons. The ground is a nightmare of mud and blood, and you step carefully, your boots sinking. You find a wounded Ashigaru, one of yours, and call for a medic. He'll live, maybe, but others won't. You pass a fallen samurai, his katana still clutched in his hand, and wonder if that's your future. The thought lingers as you return to camp, the air heavy with smoke and the moans of the wounded. Takeda himself rides through, his expression unreadable. You bow, but he doesn't acknowledge you. Why would he? You're just one blade among many. Night falls, and you're back at the castle, your armor stripped off, your body a map of bruises. You sit by a fire, eating rice and miso soup, the warmth a small comfort. The other samurai swap stories, some laughing about a clumsy enemy who tripped mid-charge. You chuckle, but your mind's elsewhere, replaying the day's carnage. Your katana rests beside you, its scabbard scratched but intact. It's more than a weapon now, it's proof you survived. You think of that fan from your scouting days, tucked away, and wonder if it's brought you luck after all. As you lie on your mat, the castle quiet except for the crackle of distant fires, you feel the weight of the day settle. War is your reality now, and there's no going back. You trace the edge of your netsuki, its fox shape worn smooth, and let the exhaustion pull you under. Sleep comes, heavy and dreamless, the battlefield's echo fading into the hum of crickets and the promise of another brutal dawn. You weave through the castle's labyrinthine halls, the air thick with the scent of polished wood and faint traces of incense, your katana a reassuring weight at your hip. The flickering light of oil lamps casts shadows on the shoji screens, and every step feels like a dance on a knife's edge. You're not on the battlefield now, but the castle's court is its own kind of war zone, where words cut deeper than steel and a wrong glance can cost you everything. Remember that bloody clash under Takeda's banners? This is the other side of samurai life, serving your daimyo in a world of whispers, schemes, and hidden daggers. The Sengo period's chaos doesn't end at the battlefield, it festers here, in the heart of power. The main hall is a study in controlled tension. Samurai kneel in neat rows, their armor swapped for silk kimonos, though you all carry wakizashi as a reminder of your status. Lord Takeda presides, his expression unreadable, while his advisors, men with eyes like hawks and smiles like traps, murmur about alliances and betrayals. You're here as a retainer, expected to observe, not speak, but your presence is a statement. You're loyal, you're useful, you're alive. A mainstream fact to ground us, Sengo-era castles, like Himeji or Matsumoto, were not just fortresses but political hubs where daimyo orchestrated power plays, often using samurai like you as pawns in their games. You kneel near the back, your knees aching on the tatami, and scan the room. The advisor with the fox-like smile, Hiroshi, you've learned, watches everyone, his fingers drumming on his fan. You've heard rumors he's brokered secret deals with rival clans, but no one dares accuse him. Betrayal is a death sentence, and proof is hard to come by. You shift slightly, your wakizashi's hilt brushing your palm, and wonder if you'd draw it against a man like him. Probably not, you're a soldier, not a politician, but the court's teaching you to think like one. Your fox netsuki, tucked in your obi, feels like a silent ally in this den of snakes. The discussion turns to a potential alliance with a neighboring daimyo, a move that could secure Takeda's borders but risks angering another clan. You listen, trying to parse the layers of meaning in every word. Hiroshi suggests sending a samurai as an envoy, and his gaze flicks to you for a heartbeat. Your stomach twists, is he testing you, or just toying with you? Takeda nods, and another samurai, older and grizzled, volunteers. You're relieved but uneasy, being noticed here is as dangerous as being ignored. Historians still argue whether samurai were more warriors or courtiers in these settings, their roles blurred by the demands of loyalty and survival. You're starting to feel that blur yourself. As the meeting ends, you're tasked with escorting a visiting envoy to his quarters. The man, a wiry samurai from the Yusuji clan, moves with a predator's grace, his eyes scanning every corner. You walk beside him, your hand near your blade, not because you expect a fight but because it's habit now. The castle's corridors are a maze of sliding doors and hidden alcoves, perfect for eavesdropping or worse. The envoy makes small talk, praising Takeda's hospitality, but his tone drips with sarcasm. You nod politely, keeping your face neutral. A quirky tidbit to lighten the mood. Some samurai carried poetry scrolls in their sleeves, ready to recite verses to impress allies or diffuse tension. You've got no poems, but you wish you had one to shut this guy up. Bet you're glad your office drama doesn't involve swords, right? The envoy's quarters are lavish, silk cushions, lacquered tables, a view of the cherry blossoms, but you notice the walls are thin, perfect for spies. You bow and leave, but not before catching his smirk, like he knows something you don't. Back in the courtyard, you overhear two servants joking about a courtier who tripped over his own kimono during a banquet. Apparently, he face-planted into a tray of mochi. You stifle a laugh, the image a brief escape from the court's pressure. But the levity fades as you're summoned to a private meeting with Kenso, your battlefield commander, now doubling as Takeda's enforcer. Kenso's room is Spartan, just a low table and a rack of spears. His blunt, there's suspicion of a traitor in the ranks, someone leaking plans to the Usugi. You're to keep your eyes open, report anything odd. The weight of his words settles like damp fog. Spying on your own comrades feels wrong, but refusing isn't an option. You nod, your throat tight, and leave, the castle's beauty now tainted by paranoia. You pass Hiroshi in the hall, his smile sharper than ever, and wonder if he's the snake. Or maybe it's you, caught in a game you didn't choose. Days blend into a haze of duties, guarding doors, delivering messages, watching for signs of treachery. You're good at staying unnoticed, a shadow in silk, but it's exhausting. You catch Taro during a break, sharing a cup of sake under a lantern-lit veranda. He's heard the traitor rumors too and jokes that it's probably the cook, poisoning the miso soup. You chuckle, but your eyes scan the darkness beyond the light. The court's a battlefield of its own, and you're learning its rules. Trust no one, hear everything, say nothing. One night, you're assigned to patrol the castle's inner keep, where Takeda's family resides. The halls are quiet, the air heavy with jasmine from the gardens. You pause by a screen, overhearing two advisors whispering about a failed assassination attempt on Takeda. Your blood runs cold, someone got close, too close. You report it to Kenso, who nods grimly but says nothing. The next day, a samurai you vaguely know disappears, his quarters empty. No one speaks of it, but the message is clear: loyalty is life, betrayal is death. As you lie on your mat, the castle silent except for the creak of wood and the distant hoot of an owl, you feel the court's weight pressing harder than your armor ever did. Your katana rests nearby, its blade a cold comfort. You trace your netsuki, its fox shape worn smooth, and wonder if it's guiding you or just watching you stumble. Sleep comes slowly, the court's shadows creeping into your dreams, where every smile hides a blade and every ally could be an enemy. You trudge through a muddy village path, the weight of your katana at your hip a stark contrast to the weary faces of the peasants bowing low as you pass. The air smells of wet rice and smoke, the field stretching out like a patchwork quilt under a grey sky. You're not in the castle's polished halls or the battlefield's chaos now, you're in the countryside, enforcing your daimyo's rule over the people who feed his armies. Remember that court where whispers were as deadly as blades? This is the other side of your duty, where your presence is both law and threat, and your loyalty to Lord Takeda means squeezing these villages dry. The Sengo period's power rests on their labor, and you're the one making sure they don't forget it. The village is small, maybe 50 thatched huts clustered around a wooden shrine. The peasants, their clothes patched and faces gaunt, pause their work to kneel as you approach. You're here to collect the rice tax, a burden that's grown heavier with Takeda's latest campaigns. A mainstream fact to ground us: in feudal Japan, peasants often paid up to 60% of their harvest in taxes to their daimyo, leaving them barely enough to survive the winter. You see it in their eyes: fear, resentment, and something like despair. You don't like it, but orders are orders, and your katana ensures compliance. You stop at the headman's hut, a slightly larger structure with a sagging roof. The headman, an old man with a back bent like a willow, bows deeply, his hands trembling as he offers a ledger of the village's yield. You scan it, your training in numbers basic but enough to spot discrepancies. The figures are low, too low. Drought, he mumbles, eyes on the ground. You're not sure if he's lying or just unlucky, but Takeda won't care. You order the rice barns opened, and the peasants shuffle to obey, their movements slow, like they're carrying the weight of your armor too. A quirky tidbit to lighten the mood: some villages hid rice in hollowed-out tree trunks to dodge taxes, a risky move you almost admire. You check the barns, half hoping to find one, but they are pitifully sparse. No secret stashes here. The headman's daughter, a girl barely older than you, brings you tea, her hand steady despite the fear in her eyes. You thank her, your voice softer than you meant, and she flinches, like kindness from a samurai is a trap. You sip the tea, bitter and thin, and feel a pang of guilt. You're not the villain here, are you? But the villagers don't see a man, they see Takeda's blade, and that's what you are. Historians still argue whether samurai were protectors or oppressors in villages like this, their role shaped by the daimyo's demands and the era's desperation. You're starting to see both sides, and it's not sitting well. You oversee the rice collection, Ashigaru hauling sacks to a cart while peasants watch in silence. One man, bolder than the rest, mutters about starvation. You turn, your hand on your wakizashi, and he falls silent, but his eyes burn. You could cut him down, your code allows it, but you don't. Instead, you tell the headman to ensure no one goes hungry, a hollow order when you're taking half their food. The cart creaks under the load as you prepare to leave, the villagers' bowed heads a heavy weight on your conscience. You think of that folding fan from your scouting days, tucked in your obi, and wish it held answers instead of battle plans. On the road back, you're ambushed, not by bandits, but by a group of desperate peasants wielding sickles and hoes. It's pathetic, really, but dangerous. You draw your katana, the blade gleaming in the dusk, and shout for them to stand down. They hesitate, then scatter, but not before you nick one's arm, a warning, not a kill. You're shaken, not by the fight but by their desperation. Back at the castle, you report to Kenso, who shrugs off the incident. Peasants always grumble, he says, but you wonder if he's ever seen their faces up close. You don't mention the guilt gnawing at you, samurai don't have room for that. Days later, you're sent to another village, this one even poorer. The routine's the same, inspect, collect, intimidate. But this time, a child tugs at your kimono, offering a wilted flower. You freeze, unsure how to respond, and end up tucking it into your obi next to your netsuki. The gesture feels like defiance, or maybe hope, and it sticks with you. That night, you overhear two Ashigaru joking about a samurai who tried to plow a field to understand the peasants and got stuck in the mud. You laugh, but it's hollow. You're starting to see the gap between your world and theirs, and it's wider than any battlefield. Your next task is to settle a dispute between two villages over water rights. You ride out with Taro, who's become a grudging companion. He jokes that you're turning soft, eyeing the flower still in your obi. Next, you'll be farming rice, he teases. You roll your eyes but let him have it, his humor's a lifeline out here. The villages are at each other's throats, their irrigation ditches a muddy mess. You mediate, your katana a silent threat, and force a compromise neither side likes. It's not justice, just order, and you feel like a glorified bully. Back at the castle, you're summoned to report on the villages. Takeda listens, his face impassive, and dismisses you with a nod. You're just a cog in his machine, but the villagers' faces haunt you, especially that girl with the tea, the child with the flower. You lie on your mat, the castle's silence broken by a distant dog's bark, and trace your netsuki's fox shape. Duty binds you, but it's starting to chafe. You close your eyes, the weight of the peasants lives heavier than any rice sack, and drift into a sleep where fields burn and flowers wilt under a samurai's shadow. You wander the rain-slicked paths of a misty hillside, your straw sandals sinking into the mud, the weight of your katana a cold anchor at your side. The air smells of wet pine and despair, and the distant hum of a village fades as you move deeper into the wilderness. You're no longer bound to Lord Takeda's castle or its suffocating court. You're a ronin now, a masterless samurai, cast out after a failed mission that wasn't even your fault. Remember those peasants you taxed, their resentful eyes? This is worse. You're one of them now, or close to it, scraping by in a world that reveres samurai but spits on those without a lord. The Sengo period is unkind to strays, and you're about to learn how brutal freedom can be. The rain pelts your straw hat, its brim sagging as you trudge toward a roadside inn, the only shelter for miles. Your arm is gone, sold to pay for food, and your kimono is patched, the indigo faded to a dull gray. You still have your katana and wakizashi, the last marks of your former life, but they feel heavier now, like they're mocking you. A mainstream fact to ground us, ronin, often former samurai who lost their lords through death or disgrace, numbered in the tens of thousands during the Sengo period, many turning to banditry or mercenary work to survive. You're not there yet, but the thoughts crossed your mind, and it tastes bitter. The inn is a ramshackle affair, its thatched roof leaking, the air inside thick with the smell of cheap steak and boiled millet. You barter a night's lodging for a day's labor, chopping wood, a task that burns your pride more than your muscles. The innkeeper, a wiry woman with a scar across her cheek, eyes your swords warily. No trouble, she warns, and you nod, keeping your hands visible. You're not here to fight, just to eat. As you swing the axe, the rhythm dulls your thoughts, but not the ache of loss. You were Takeda's blade once, now you're nobodies, and the world doesn't care. You overhear travelers at the inn, their voices low as they swap tales of Ronin bands raiding villages. One mentions a samurai who turned monk, shaving his head and trading his katana for a rosary. You scoff, prayers won't fill your stomach, but the idea lingers. Historians still argue whether most Ronin sought new lords or embraced their outcast status, forging their own paths in a fractured Japan. You're not sure which you are yet. You sit by the fire, chewing tough millet porridge, and trace the fox netsuki still tucked in your obi. It's the only thing you didn't sell, a stubborn link to your past. Bet you're glad your worst day doesn't involve sleeping in a leaky inn, right? Days blur into weeks of wandering. You take odd jobs, guarding merchants, scaring off bandits, even hauling rice for a village headman who pays in scraps. Each task chips away at your pride, but you do it because hunger is a crueler master than any daimyo. You pass a group of peasants one morning, their eyes flicking to your swords before they bow, more out of fear than respect. You're not their protector anymore, you're a stray dog with sharp teeth. A quirky tidbit to lighten the mood: some Ronin carved their names into roadside shrines, hoping the gods would remember them when men didn't. You pause by a weathered Jizo statue, its stone face mossy, and consider adding your name. Instead, you leave a pebble, a small offering for luck you don't believe in. One evening, you're hired as a guard for a merchant caravan heading to a market town. The merchant, a plump man with a nervous laugh, chats endlessly about trade routes. You nod, half listening, your eyes scanning the forest for threats. Bandits hit at dusk, a ragged crew of Ronin like you, their blades dull but desperate. You draw your katana, its weight familiar, and meet them head-on. The fight's quick and messy, your training gives you the edge, and you cut down two before the rest flee. The merchant claps your back, calling you a hero, but you feel nothing. You're alive, they're not, and the rice he pays you with doesn't taste like victory. You move on, sleeping under trees or in abandoned shrines, the rain your constant companion. You hear rumors of Takeda's latest campaign, and a pang of something, regret, maybe, hits you. You're free, but freedom is a lonely road. One night, you share a fire with another Ronin, a grizzled man named Gyro, his face scarred like a battle map. He tells you he was cast out for refusing to execute a peasant. Honor's a trap, he mutters, passing you a flask of sake. You drink, the burn grounding you, and joke that at least you don't have to bow to anyone anymore. He laughs, but it's hollow, and you both stare into the flames, two lost souls in a world that's moved on. The next town brings a chance encounter with Taro, your old sparring partner, now a retainer for a new daimyo. His polished, his armor gleaming, and you feel like a ghost beside him. He buys you sake, his eyes soft with pity. Come with me, he says. My lord needs men. You consider it, the pull of purpose strong, but you shake your head. You're not ready to trade one leash for another. He leaves you with a rice ball and a warning, don't die out here. You smirk, tossing him a pebble like the one you left at the shrine. No promises, you say, and he laughs, a sound you'll miss. As winter creeps in, the cold bites harder than any blade. You take shelter in a cave, your breath visible, your katana across your lap. You think of that folding fan from your scouting days, long lost, and wonder if it would have kept you warm. The Ronin's path is brutal, a life of scraps and suspicion, but it's yours. You carve a small fox into the cave wall, a nod to your netsuki, and let the silence wrap around you. Sleep comes, heavy with the weight of freedom, and you dream of open roads and a life you might never find. You kneel on a cold stone floor, the air heavy with the scent of burning incense and the faint metallic tang of your own fear, your katana resting across your lap like a judge awaiting your verdict. You're in a small, dimly lit room within a temple, its walls adorned with faded scrolls of Buddhist sutras, far from the chaos of Takeda's castle or the lonely roads of a Ronin. You're here to face seppuku, the ritual suicide that defines samurai honor, a specter that's haunted you since you first swore your oath. Remember that Ronin's freedom, bitter as it was? This is the other side of the samurai code, where failure or disgrace demands your life, and you're staring it down. The Sengo period doesn't forgive, and neither does the blade in your hands. The room is silent except for the crackle of a brazier and the soft chanting of a monk somewhere beyond the walls. You're not alone. Kenso, your old commander, stands as your kaishikunin, the one who'll deliver the final cut to spare you prolonged agony. His face is grim, his katana sheathed but ready. You've been ordered to perform seppuku after a failed defense of a border fort, a loss blamed on you despite the odds being impossible. Takeda's decree was clear: restore your honor, or let your family bear the shame. A mainstream fact to ground us: seppuku, formalized in the Sengo period, was a samurai's ultimate act of loyalty, often performed to atone for failure or to protest a lord's injustice. You're not protesting, you're just trying to die well. Your hands tremble as you adjust your white kimono, the traditional garb for this ritual. It's pristine, a stark contrast to the patched rags of your Ronin days. You've written your death poem, as custom demands, a simple verse about cherry blossoms falling in silence. It's tucked into your obi, next to that fox netsuki you've carried through every trial. You almost laugh. Poetry feels absurd when you're about to spill your own blood. A quirky tidbit to lighten the mood: some samurai drank a final cup of sake before seppuku, believing it steadied their nerves. You take a sip from the lacquered cup before you, the burn sharp but fleeting. Bet you're glad your worst decisions don't come with a blade, right? The ritual begins with a slow, deliberate rhythm. You bow to the witnesses, a handful of Takeda's retainers, their faces unreadable, and place the tanto, a short dagger, on the mat before you. The blade is small but razor-sharp, meant for the cut across your abdomen. You've seen it done once, years ago, and the memory makes your stomach churn. Kenso steps closer, his presence a strange comfort. "Be strong," he whispers, and you nod, though strength feels like a distant dream. Historians still argue whether seppuku was an act of courage or a coerced performance, a way to control samurai through fear of dishonor. Right now, it feels like both, a choice you're making, but one you can't escape. You take a deep breath, the incense stinging your lungs, and grip the tanto. The room seems to shrink, the walls closing in as you focus on the blade. You think of your training, your battles, the villagers who feared you, the Ronin's lonely road. Did it all lead here? You press the tanto's tip to your stomach, the cold steel a shock against your skin. The cut must be precise, left to right, deep enough to prove your resolve. Your heart pounds, but you force your hands steady. You're not just dying, you're reclaiming your honor, or so the code says. You glance at Kenso, his eyes steady, and draw strength from his nod. The pain is blinding, a fire that consumes thought. You bite back a cry, your training holding you together as you complete the cut. Blood soaks your kimono, warm and heavy, and you slump forward, the tanto clattering to the mat. Kenso moves swiftly, his katana flashing in a single, clean stroke. The world fades, but not before you hear the monk's chant grow louder, a rhythm that carries you into darkness. You don't feel the end, only a fleeting sense of release, like a petal falling from a branch. But let's rewind, you're not dead yet. This was a vision, a meditation your sensei forced you to endure, a way to face seppuku's reality without the blade. You're still in the temple, alive, shaking, the tanto untouched before you. The exercise is meant to steel you, to make death less terrifying, but it's left you raw. Kenso claps your shoulder, his grip firm. "You did well," he says, but you're not sure you believe him. You stumble outside, the cool air a balm on your sweat-soaked face, and lean against a cedar tree. The cherry blossoms are gone, their petals scattered, and you feel their absence like a wound. You return to the castle, the vision of seppuku lingering like a ghost. Your duties resume, guarding, training, serving, but every task feels heavier now. You overhear two samurai joking about a lord who botched his own seppuku, surviving long enough to embarrass everyone. You force a smile, but the humor doesn't land. The code demands you be ready to die, but living with that readiness is its own kind of death. You sit by a koi pond at dusk, watching the fish glide, their scales catching the fading light. Your netsuki feels heavier in your obi, a reminder of the life you're still clinging to. Days later, you're sent on a minor mission, delivering a message to a nearby temple. The ride is quiet, the countryside calm, but your mind replays that ritual, the imagined pain. You pass a peasant who bows, his eyes wary, and you wonder if he knows how fragile your honor is. Back at the castle, Taro finds you, offering a rice bowl and a grin. "Heard you faced the blade," he says, half teasing. You shrug, not ready to talk, but his presence is a small comfort. The samurai's path is brutal, but it's yours, and you're not ready to let it go, not yet. As you lie on your mat, the castle silent except for the creak of wood, you trace the fox netsuki, its shape worn smooth. Seppuku looms, a shadow you can't outrun, but for now, you're alive. Sleep pulls you under, the hum of crickets blending with the echo of a blade that hasn't yet fallen, and you dream of blossoms and blood. You crouch in the shadows of a dense bamboo grove, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and the faint rustle of leaves, your katana drawn and gleaming under a sliver of moonlight. Your heart pounds, not from battle's chaos but from the eerie silence of the night, broken only by the distant hoot of an owl. You're hunting a ninja, a shadow warrior whose elusiveness mocks your samurai training. Remember that seppuku meditation, the blade's cold promise? This is different, less about honor, more about survival in a game where your enemy doesn't play by your rules. The Sengo period is a chessboard of deceit, and ninja are the pieces that move in the dark, threatening your daimyo's plans and your own fragile existence. You're back in Takeda's service, your Ronin days a fading scar after you proved your worth in a skirmish. But this mission is personal. A ninja infiltrated the castle, stealing documents that could tip the balance against your lord. You're tasked with tracking the culprit, a task that feels like chasing smoke. Your arm is too noisy for this, so you've traded it for a dark kimono, your face wrapped in a cloth to blend with the night. A mainstream fact to ground us: ninja, often called shinobi, were real operatives in feudal Japan, hired by daimyo for espionage, sabotage, or assassination, their skills honed in secrecy and rooted in clans like those in Iga and Koga. You're not sure if you're hunting a myth or a man, but either way, you're out of your depth. The grove is a maze, bamboo stalks swaying like silent sentinels. You move slowly, your sandals muffled by moss, every sense straining. You've heard stories of ninja, how they vanish into shadows, wield strange weapons, even use gunpowder. Your katana feels heavy, too rigid for this fluid enemy. You spot a broken twig, a faint footprint in the mud, and your grip tightens. Is it a trap? Probably. You think of that fox netsuki, tucked in your obi, and hope its cunning rubs off on you. A quirky tidbit to lighten the mood: some ninja carried dried crickets as a snack, believing they brought agility. You've got none, but you'd trade your wakizashi for a handful right now. Bet you're glad your late-night errands don't involve stalking assassins, huh? A rustle ahead snaps you alert. You freeze, your breath shallow, and glimpse a shadow dart between the bamboo. It's fast, too fast, and you curse under your breath. You follow, your movements careful but not silent enough. The ninja's trained to hear a leaf fall, and you're no ghost. You reach a clearing, the moonlight exposing you, and that's when it happens. A shuriken whizzes past, grazing your shoulder. The pain's sharp but shallow, and you dive behind a rock, your katana useless against a foe you can't see. Historians still argue whether ninja were elite warriors or just clever mercenaries, their legend inflated by fearful samurai like you. Right now, you don't care, you just want to live. You listen, the grove's silence deafening. Another shuriken thuds into the rock, and you roll, spotting a flicker of movement. You charge, katana raised, but the ninja's gone, leaving only a tripwire that sends you sprawling. You hit the ground hard, mud smearing your face, and hear a low chuckle from the darkness. It's humiliating, but you're not done. You rise, scanning for tracks, and find a faint trail leading to a river. The water's cold, glinting like a blade, and you wade in, the current tugging at your legs. You're not sure if you're hunting or being hunted, but you keep moving, driven by duty and a stubborn need to prove you're not prey. The trail leads to an abandoned shrine. You climb onto the bank, dripping, and spot a figure crouched by the shrine's steps. It's him, the ninja, a slight man in black, his eyes glinting through a mask. You charge, but is gone in a flash, leaving a smoke bomb's acrid cloud. You cough, staggering forward, but has vanished again. You're starting to hate this guy. You search the shrine, finding a hidden trapdoor under the altar. It leads to a tunnel, and you hesitate. Going underground feels like walking into a trap. But Takeda's orders echo in your mind, and you descend, the damp earth swallowing you. The tunnel's narrow, the air stale. Your katana's tip scrapes the walls as you move, guided by faint torchlight ahead. You emerge in a small cave, where the ninja waits, a short blade in hand. He's fast, but you're ready, parrying his strike with your katana. The fight's brutal, a dance of steel in the flickering light. He's skilled, but your training holds. You nick his arm, and he flees, dropping a scroll, your target. You grab it, heart pounding, and climb out, the night air a shock after the cave's gloom. Back at the castle, you deliver the scroll to Takeda, who nods but says nothing. Kenso claps your back, a rare gesture, and you feel a flicker of pride. Later, by a fire, Taro jokes about your ninja chase, saying you probably tripped over your own ego. You laugh, the tension easing, and share a rice ball. The victory's small, but it's yours. You lie on your mat, the fox netsuki in hand, and drift to sleep, the hum of crickets drowning out the echoes of the hunt. You sit cross-legged by a low wooden table, the air heavy with the scent of soy and charcoal, your katana resting nearby as a reminder of the life you can't escape. You're in your family's modest home within the castle's outer walls, a rare moment away from Takeda's court or the battlefield's chaos. The shoji screens filter the morning light, casting soft shadows, but the warmth of the room can't ease the tension knotting your chest. You're a samurai, bound by duty to your lord, But here, you're also a son, a brother, maybe a husband, caught between the code that defines you and the family you're expected to protect. Remember that ninja you chased through the bamboo? This is harder, balancing the blade of loyalty with the pull of love, where every choice feels like a betrayal. In the Sengo period, family is both anchor and chain, and you're about to feel its weight. Your mother, her hair streaked with gray, serves rice and pickled radish, her hands steady despite the years of worry etched into her face. Your younger sister, Hannah, sits across from you, her eyes bright but guarded. She's old enough to understand the dangers of your life. Your father, once a samurai himself, is absent, lost to a battle years ago, his katana now yours. The meal is simple, the silence heavy. You're here to fulfill your duty as head of the household, but every moment away from Takeda's service risks his displeasure. A mainstream fact to ground us: samurai families in the Sengo period often lived within their lord's domain, their status tied to the warrior service, but their survival hinged on navigating both clan politics and personal bonds. You break the silence, asking Hannah about her studies, calligraphy, poetry, the skills expected of a samurai's sister. She smiles, shyly showing you a scroll with delicate ink strokes. You nod, impressed, but your mind drifts to the rumors of an impending campaign. If you're sent to war again, who'll protect them? Your mother catches your eye, her gaze sharp. You're thinner, she says, not a question. You shrug, joking that Takeda's rice rations aren't exactly generous. She doesn't laugh, and you feel the weight of her unspoken fear: you might not come back. A quirky tidbit to lighten the mood: some samurai families kept pet crickets in tiny cages, believing their chirps warded off bad luck. You glance at a small bamboo cage in the corner, its occupant silent, and wonder if it's given up on you too. Bet you're glad your family drama doesn't involve a lord's wrath, right? The day passes in quiet tasks: repairing a screen, sharpening your father's old tanto for Hannah's dowry, listening to your mother's stories of your childhood. But duty calls, always. You're summoned to the castle to discuss troop movements, and you leave with a promise to return soon. Hannah presses a folded origami crane into your hand, a child's gesture of hope, and you tuck it into your obi next to your fox netsuki. The castle's bustle feels jarring after the stillness of home. Servants scurry, samurai drill, and Takeda's advisors plot in hushed tones. You deliver your report, but your thoughts linger on Hannah's crane, its fragile wings a contrast to the steel at your side. Back home that evening, you find a letter from a distant cousin, begging for help. His village, outside Takeda's domain, is starving, caught between warring clans. You want to send rice, but your family's stores are thin, and diverting supplies could be seen as disloyalty. You wrestle with the choice, your samurai code clashing with blood ties. Historians still argue whether samurai prioritized family or lord, their divided loyalties a constant tension in the Sengo period. You pen a vague reply, promising to visit, but it feels like a betrayal. You slip the letter under your mat, where it can't haunt you, at least not tonight. The next day, you're training with Taro when a messenger arrives. Hannah's betrothed, a low-ranking samurai from a neighboring clan, has been killed in a skirmish. The news hits like a blade. You ride home, your horse's hooves pounding the dirt, and find your mother weeping, Hannah pale but composed. You kneel beside her, words failing, and offer the origami crane back. She takes it, her fingers trembling, and you feel useless, a samurai who can't protect his own. You joke weakly about teaching her kenjutsu, saying she'd probably outdo you. She smiles, but it's fleeting, and you hate how little you can offer. Days later, you're tasked with escorting a dowry to another clan, a political marriage to secure an alliance. The irony stings: your sister's future is uncertain, yet you're facilitating someone else's. The journey is tense, bandits a constant threat, but you return unscathed, only to learn your mother's fallen ill. You sit by her side, brewing bitter herbs, your katana useless against fever. She recovers, slowly, and you thank the gods, though you're not sure you believe in them. Over tea, Taro jokes about a samurai who tried to cure his wife with a war dance. Spoiler, it didn't work. You laugh, grateful for the distraction, but the fear lingers. As weeks pass, you juggle duties, patrols, councils, training, while stealing moments with your family. You teach Hannah to wield a bokken, her strikes clumsy but determined. You tell your mother stories of the battlefield, leaving out the blood. Each visit feels stolen, a defiance of Takeda's claim on your life. You lie on your mat at night, the castle's silence broken by a cricket's chirp, and trace your netsuki, its fox shape worn smooth. Family is your strength, but also your weakness, and you're learning to carry both. Sleep comes, heavy with the weight of love and duty, and you dream of cranes taking flight under a samurai's shadow. You kneel on a woven mat in a quiet temple, the air thick with the scent of sandalwood incense and the faint hum of a monk's chant, your katana resting beside you like a sleeping companion. The flickering light of a single candle dances on the wooden altar, where a small Buddha statue gazes down with serene indifference. You're here seeking something, peace, maybe, or answers, in a life defined by steel and blood. Remember that family you're struggling to protect? This is different, a moment to grapple with the spiritual pull of Zen, a force that promises clarity amidst the violence of your samurai existence. In the Sengo period, faith is both refuge and riddle, and you're about to wrestle with its contradictions. The temple is a modest wooden structure, tucked into a forested hillside far from Takeda's castle. You've been granted a rare day of leave, a chance to reflect after months of battles, court intrigues, and family burdens. Your hands, calloused from gripping a katana, feel out of place as you clasp them in meditation. The monk, an old man with a face like weathered parchment, guides you to sit zazen, cross-legged, back straight, eyes half-closed. Empty your mind, he says, his voice soft as falling leaves. You try, but your thoughts are a battlefield, memories of blood, your sister's tearful eyes, the weight of Takeda's orders. A mainstream fact to ground us, Zen Buddhism profoundly shaped samurai culture in the Sengo period, its emphasis on discipline and impermanence aligning with the warrior's readiness to face death. You focus on your breath, the air cool in your lungs, but it's hard to let go. Zen teaches detachment, the idea that life is fleeting, like cherry blossoms scattering in the wind. But detachment feels impossible when you're bound by duty, loyalty, and love. You think of that fox Netsuke, still tucked in your obi, its cunning spirit a stark contrast to the monk's calm. A quirky tidbit to lighten the mood, some samurai carried small prayer beads carved from persimmon wood, believing they sharpen focus during meditation. You've got a string of them, a gift from your mother, looped around your wrist. They're smooth, grounding, but you're still a mess of thoughts. Bet you're glad your mindfulness app doesn't demand you face mortality, right? The monk notices your restlessness and hands you a koan, a riddle meant to break your mind open. What is the sound of one hand clapping? You stare at him, half expecting a trick, but his eyes are steady, almost amused. You mutter something about silence, and he shakes his head. Think deeper, he says, and you're left grappling with a puzzle that feels as elusive as the ninja you once hunted. Historians still argue whether Zen was a genuine spiritual path for samurai or a tool to sharpen their mental edge for war. To you, it's both, a way to quiet the chaos and a reminder that peace is as fleeting as a blade's flash. You spend the day in the temple, alternating between meditation and chores, sweeping the courtyard, hauling water, polishing the altar. The work is humbling, a stark contrast to the power you wield as a samurai. You catch yourself glancing at your katana, propped against a wall, and wonder if it's judging your clumsy attempts at enlightenment. By midday, you join the monk for tea, served in cracked ceramic cups. He tells you a story of a samurai who found satori, enlightenment, mid-battle, only to die moments later. You chuckle, joking that you'd rather find it while eating rice. He smiles, but his eyes say you're not wrong. As evening falls, you walk the temple grounds, the forest alive with the chirp of crickets and the rustle of leaves. You pause by a koi pond, its surface a mirror for the fading sky. Zen teaches you to accept life's impermanence, but it's hard when every day feels like a fight to hold on, to your family, your honor, your life. You think of Taro, your sparring partner, and his dumb jokes about falling into koi ponds. You wish he were here, cutting through the silence with his grin. Instead, you sit by the pond, tracing your prayer beads, and try to let go of the weight pressing on your chest. Back in the temple, you meditate again, the monks chant a steady rhythm. You're no closer to solving the koan, but something shifts, a fleeting sense of calm, like a breeze through an open window. You're not enlightened, far from it, but you feel lighter, as if the blood on your hands has faded, just a little. The monk dismisses you with a nod, and you bow, your katana heavy as you sling it back on. The path back to the castle is dark, the stars hidden by clouds, but you walk with purpose, the beads clicking softly against your wrist. At the castle, duty reclaims you, patrols, reports, the endless grind of Takeda's service. But the temple's quiet lingers, a small rebellion against the violence of your life. You overhear two Ashigaru joking about a samurai who fell asleep mid-meditation and snored so loud he scared the monks. You laugh, the sound surprising you, and realize Zen's given you something, even if it's just a moment's breath. You lie on your mat, the castle silent except for a distant owl, and trace your Netsuke's fox shape. Sleep comes, soft and heavy, carrying you into dreams of still ponds and unanswered riddles. You kneel on a woven mat in a quiet temple, the air thick with the scent of sandalwood incense and the faint hum of a monk's chant, your katana resting beside you like a sleeping companion. The flickering light of a single candle dances on the wooden altar, where a small Buddha statue gazes down with serene indifference. You're here seeking something, peace, maybe, or answers, in a life defined by steel and blood. The Sengo period's chaos has shaped you, but this temple offers a fleeting escape, a chance to wrestle with Zen's promise of clarity amidst the violence. Your hands, calloused from gripping a katana, feel out of place as you clasp them in meditation, the monk's voice guiding you to empty your mind, a task as impossible as dodging rain. Your mother's prayer beads, carved from persimmon wood, click softly on your wrist, a gift meant to anchor you. You try to focus, but memories flood in, blood-soaked battlefields, your sister's fragile origami crane, Takeda's cold gaze. Zen teaches detachment, but your life is a tangle of duty and love. The monk hands you a koan. What is the sound of one hand clapping? You fumble for an answer, muttering about silence, but he shakes his head. You spend the day sweeping, hauling water, sipping tea from cracked cups, each task a lesson in humility. By the pond, you watch koi glide, their calm mocking your turmoil. The temple's peace is fleeting, but it lingers, a whisper of stillness in a samurai's brutal world. You stand on a windswept hill overlooking Takeda's castle, its tiled roofs glinting under a fading sun, the air sharp with the scent of autumn leaves and distant smoke. Your katana hangs at your side, its weight a familiar burden, but your eyes are fixed on the horizon, where whispers of change stir like a gathering storm. You're a samurai, forged in blood and bound by honor, but the world you've known, the Sengo period's endless wars, is shifting beneath your feet. Remember that temple's fleeting peace? Now you're facing the slow decline of the samurai's power, a tide you can't fight, only witness. The age of warring clans is fraying, and you're caught in its unraveling. The castle below buzzes with tension. Takeda's latest campaign faltered, not from defeat but from alliances shifting like sand. Rival daimyo are consolidating, and rumors of a new power, a warlord named Oda Nobunaga, ripple through the ranks. You've heard he wields matchlock guns, turning battles into slaughterhouses where samurai blades mean less. A mainstream fact to ground us: by the late 16th century, Oda Nobunaga's use of firearms, notably at the Battle of Nagashino in 1575, began reshaping warfare, undermining the samurai's traditional dominance. You've trained to face steel, not gunpowder, and the thought makes your katana feel like a relic. You descend the hill, your sandals crunching on fallen leaves, and enter the castle. The courtyard is quieter than it once was, fewer samurai drill, more ashigaru clean muskets. You pass Kenso, your old commander, his face etched deeper with worry. He nods but says nothing, his silence louder than any order. You're summoned to a council, where Takeda's advisors debate strategy. The room smells of ink and sweat, the air thick with unspoken fear. They talk of unifying clans under a shogun, a distant dream that could end the chaos, or your way of life. You stand at the back, your wakizashi a cold comfort, and wonder if your loyalty to Takeda will outlast the world you serve. The advisors mention peace talks, a concept as foreign as the guns. You're sent to escort a diplomat to a neutral temple, a task that feels like a demotion from your battlefield days. The ride is tense, the diplomat a nervous man who clutches his scrolls like a shield. You scan the hills for bandits, your hand on your katana, but the real threat is the future. A quirky tidbit to lighten the mood: some samurai started carrying European-style compasses, looted from traders, to navigate shifting alliances. You've got no compass, just your fox netsuki, its worn shape a reminder of battles past. Bet you're glad your GPS doesn't rely on a lord's whims, right? At the temple, the talks drag on, words replacing steel. You stand guard outside, the wind carrying snatches of debate, land divisions, trade routes, promises of peace. You overhear a monk joking about a samurai who tried to barter his katana for a musket, only to trip over his own scabbard. You smirk, but the humor stings. Your blade, once your soul, feels less certain now. Historians still argue whether the samurai's decline was driven by technology, like guns, or by political unification that made their warrior code obsolete. You feel it in the air, a shift that leaves you adrift, like a boat cut loose in a storm. Back at the castle, you're assigned to train ashigaru in swordplay, a bitter irony. They're eager but clumsy, their muskets propped nearby like a taunt. You correct their stances, your voice sharp, but your heart's not in it. You think of Taro, now serving another lord, and wonder if he's facing the same doubts. You spot him one evening, visiting on a diplomatic errand, his armor polished but his eyes tired. Over sake, he jokes that you'll both be farmers soon, trading katanas for hoes. You laugh, but the idea lingers, could you live without this life? You pass him your netsuki, a half-serious gift, and he tucks it away, promising to return it when you're both old and useless. Days blend into patrols and drills, but the castle feels hollow. Fewer samurai gather in the halls, and Takeda's banners seem to droop. You hear of villagers arming themselves, no longer relying on samurai protection. One night, you're sent to quell a peasant uprising, a small band wielding stolen spears. You disperse them without bloodshed, your katana sheathed, but their defiance unsettles you. They don't fear you anymore, not like they used to. You think of that origami crane from your sister, still tucked in your quarters, and wonder if she'll outlive this era's chaos. As winter looms, you're called to a final council. Takeda speaks of peace, a word that tastes like ash. His negotiating with Oda's allies, a move that could end the wars but strip you of purpose. You stand silent, your armor heavier than ever, and realize the samurai's world is fading. You walk the castle's walls at dusk, the sky bruised purple, and feel like a ghost in your own life. Your katana, once a symbol of power, now feels like a memory. You trace the prayer beads from your temple days, their persimmon wood worn smooth, and let the wind carry your thoughts. You lie on your mat, the castle quiet except for a distant dog's bark, and feel the decline settle like dust. The samurai's path was brutal, but it was yours. Now, it's slipping away, and you're not sure what comes next. Sleep comes, heavy with the weight of a fading world, and you dream of empty battlefields and a blade that no longer sings. You stand on a windswept hill overlooking Takeda's castle, its tiled roofs glinting under a fading sun, the air sharp with autumn leaves and distant smoke. The Sengo period's chaos is unraveling, and the samurai's power, your power, is fading with it. Firearms, like those used at Nagashino, are reshaping war, making your katana feel like a relic. In the castle, advisors whisper of peace talks, a future where samurai might be obsolete. You escort a diplomat, guard empty halls, train ashigaru who wield muskets over swords. The world is shifting, peasants defy you, lords negotiate, and your purpose frays. Taro, your old friend, jokes of becoming farmers, but the humor cuts deep. Your netsuki, prayer beads, and katana are all you have left, anchors to a life slipping away under a bruised sky. You sit on a weathered stone by a quiet riverbank, the water's gentle ripple blending with the rustle of late autumn leaves, your katana resting across your knees like a faithful but fading companion. The air carries the crisp scent of moss and distant wood smoke, and the sky above is a soft gray, heavy with the promise of winter. You're no longer just a samurai, you're a witness to the end of an era, reflecting on the myth you've become part of, a legend that will outlive the blood and sweat of your life. Remember that decline you felt creeping in, the shadow of Oda's guns and peace talks? This is where it leads, to a moment of stillness, where you ponder the samurai's lasting echo in a world moving on. The Sengo period forged you, but its stories will shape how you're remembered, and you're starting to see your place in that tapestry. The river reflects the fading light, its surface a mirror for your thoughts. You've fought, bled, and served, through battles, court intrigues, ronin days, and spiritual searches. Each scar on your body, each dent in your armor, tells a story of survival, but the world is changing faster than you can keep up. A mainstream fact to ground us, the samurai class, while diminished after the Sengo period, left a cultural legacy that endures in Japan's art, literature, and modern fascination with bushido, codified later in the Edo period as a romanticized ideal. Your life, raw and brutal, is the root of that myth, but it feels less glamorous up close. You trace the edge of your katana, its blade nicked but still sharp, and think of the lives it's taken, the lives it saved. You're not a hero, not like the tales spun by poets or the no plays that will glorify men like you. You're just a man who's tried to live by a code, even when it broke you. The fox netsuki, still tucked in your obi, feels like a relic of that struggle, its cunning spirit a match for the contradictions you've lived. A quirky tidbit to lighten the mood, some samurai left behind haiku carved into temple walls, hoping their words would outlast their blades. You've no poetry in you today, but you wonder what you'd write if you did. Bet you're glad your legacy doesn't hinge on a sword's edge, right? The castle looms in the distance, its walls less imposing now, softened by the haze of dusk. Takeda's power is waning, his alliances fraying as Oda Nobunaga's shadow grows. You've heard his crushing clans with ruthless precision, his guns rewriting the rules of war. You've seen the ashigaru training with muskets, their clumsy hands more dangerous than your katana ever was. Historians still argue whether the samurai's legacy was one of honor or violence, a noble code or a brutal necessity born of endless war. To you, it's both, a life of discipline and bloodshed, loyalty and loss, that's left you scarred but standing. You walk the riverbank, your sandals sinking into the soft earth, and pass a small shrine, its stone Jizo statue worn by time. You pause, remembering the pebble you left as a ronin, and add another, a quiet offering to a life you're still living. The villagers nearby don't bow as deeply now, they sense the shift, the samurai's grip loosening. You don't blame them, your world is fading, and they're looking to a future where men like you are stories, not threats. You think of your sister Hannah, her origami crane still tucked in your quarters, and your mother, her strength a quiet fire. They're your anchor, more than any lord or code. Back at the castle, you're assigned a final task, guarding a caravan of rice to a neighboring ally. The road is peaceful, the air cool, but you're restless. Taro joins you, his presence a rare comfort. He's quieter now, his jokes softer, as if he feels the end too. Over a campfire, he teases you about your netsuki, saying it's probably cursed. You laugh, tossing him a pebble from the shrine, and he catches it, grinning. For luck, you say, and he nods, tucking it away. The moment feels like a goodbye, though neither of you says it. As you return, the castle feels emptier, its halls echoing with the ghosts of battles past. You sit by a koi pond, the fish gliding like memories, and think of the temple's zen lessons, the battlefield's chaos, the peasants' wary eyes. The samurai's myth is being written, but you're still living it, one weary step at a time. You lie on your mat, the night soft with the hum of crickets, and trace the netsuki's fox shape, its edges worn smooth. Sleep comes, slow and gentle, carrying you into dreams of rivers and fading light. The world grows quiet now, the river's murmur fading into a whisper, the weight of your katana lifting like mist at dawn. You've walked the samurai's path, through blood and honor, love and loss, and it's left you here, on the edge of a new era. The stars above are faint, their light a soft promise that your story, brutal as it was, will linger in the tales told by those who come after. Let the castle's walls blur, the battlefield's echoes soften, as you drift deeper into rest. Your netsuki, your blade, your scars, they're part of you, but they don't define you now. Close your eyes, let the cricket's song cradle you, and sleep, knowing you've carved your mark on a world that will never forget. You sit by a quiet riverbank, the water's ripple blending with autumn leaves, your katana across your knees as the Sengo period fades. The samurai's world, your world, is slipping away, replaced by guns and peace talks under Oda Nobunaga's shadow. Your life of battles, oaths, and family ties is becoming a myth, romanticized in future tales of bushido. The fox netsuki in your obi, worn smooth, holds memories of your struggles, blooded fields, court intrigues, Zen's fleeting peace. Villagers no longer fear you, your sister's crane and your mother's strength anchor you more than any lord. Taro's laughter, a pebble offered for luck, is your last tie to this life. As you gaze at the river, the samurai's echo lingers, a story etched in steel and silence.